season's over. Pumpkin season's done. Wanted to give a quick kind of a closeout to the season for everybody. I had a few goals this year, and the main goal was to get a 400-inch pumpkin. And basically that means if it goes to chart, 400 inches is something around 1,400 pounds. 1,404 actually. I wanted to try to get one big one, you know? Well, that didn't quite happen. The biggest measuring pumpkin that I had this year was 378. So it was 22 inches off, which is not that bad in theory. It doesn't sound that bad. It sounds like I got pretty close. But that 22 inches represents almost 200 pounds. So I really wasn't that close. Now that was the biggest measuring pumpkin. That pumpkin was my 1089. Ended up weighing 1089, but it measured 1213. Went light. Well, I think I threw it out there in the video that I would like to get 4,000 pounds. My 4,000 pound jacket. That would be awesome. I say that like it's an easy thing to do. Only 2 people in the state have ever done it. And it took years and years to do that. So that was one of those pie in the sky kind of goals. And I ended up at 3,331. So I was quite a bit short, but did better than I expected. I had 3 decent pumpkins this year. They had a lot of problems. Some of the things that went wrong this year was we had bad weather in May. Pretty much everybody experienced that around here. Not a whole lot you can do about that. It just is what it is. It was cooler than it should have been. It was rainier. I was looking for a mid-June pollination at least 14 feet down the main, and I ended up all my pumpkins pollinated in late June or early July at 10 to 14 feet down the main. So I was at least 2 weeks late, maybe 3. Another problem I ran into, my soil test said that I had tons of phosphorus, tons of potassium, and tons of calcium. I don't know how much of that was available to the plant because it became apparent that I was quite a bit low on phosphorus. So I don't know if the soil ran out. I don't know what the deal was, but I didn't have enough of it. So I started pumping it on later in the season, and it definitely helped. But if I'd have been putting that on the whole time, it's hard to tell where it would have got to. And then, last thing that I can think of that I did wrong or that was an issue was I watered correctly. I didn't overwater early, but I didn't start ramping up my watering early enough. So when the pumpkins were pollinated and ready to start growing, I was still putting on very little water and had a weird growth curve on all my pumpkins. They didn't have early jump, and that's probably the reason. Not enough phosphorus in the system, so the roots weren't as developed as they should have been, and I ramped up the water too late. Those 2 things could have cost me that extra 200 pounds. But in the good for this season, the rugs that I bought were fantastic. They were a lifesaver. I'm going to use the crap out of those next year. I might even buy another pallet full, I'm not sure. I sealed the patch better this year, the hail net, so there was not nearly as many bugs. Still had tons of squash bugs and cucumber beetles, but grasshoppers were down. Everything was down, the big bugs. My plants ended up larger by the end of the season. I filled the whole patch with 4 plants, which was great. And I was able to get my foliar feeding set up and do a lot more foliar feeding than I did last year. It did age the leaves a lot worse than last year, but that I think helped with my soil deficiencies. Helped push the plants along when they didn't have what they needed. Last thing that worked very well was the misting system. That was the biggest adjustment I did to the patch, and I do think it really helped. I didn't get much burning under the misters. I did get quite a bit of disease pressure, just because the humidity was so high, but I think it helped more than it hurt. So I'm going to continue with that. Do some adjustments on how often it runs and how long it runs, but the misters were a plus, and I think definitely needed. All that said, now's the moment you've all been waiting for. I announced the winner of the Guess the Weight contest. And The heaviest pumpkin this year was 1246. There was a lot of people in the 1200 to 1300 pound range, which is great because that shows that we're all on the same page. 1246, the winner of the guess contest this year is Chad New with a guess of 1232. He was 14 pounds short. And remember, it's the closest without going over. So Chad New gets the money, the 10% of the weight, which is $1,246, and he'll get seeds to whatever pumpkin he wants, if he wants any. Steve G guessed 10 pounds, within 10 pounds of the pumpkin, but he was on the high side. He guessed 1252, so he was actually 6 pounds off, which is really close. So I'm going to throw in something for him. I'm not sure what it is yet, but I'm going to spread the love a little bit. And I was going to see if anybody else guessed close to my other 3 pumpkins, but nobody was really that very close. I had 1,089, I had a 996, and a 750, plus my 1246. So Chad and Steve will be getting their stuff here pretty quick. And good season. I was expecting a disease season is what I was expecting. I was expecting to get something in the patch, wipe me out, and somehow I managed to get enough 4 pumpkins to where I wanted them to get to, basically, right? So I'm happy with that. 4 pumpkins this year, 6 pumpkins last year, and 1 the first year. So, 2019, pumpkins are done. I got the seeds cooking right there. I say cooking, they're just drying in front of the fan. That's two of the 3 pumpkins worth. I still got to get the seeds out of the last one. 1246 and the 996 are right there. Good seed count. Lots of viable seeds. And what I have for you next is something that's been a long time coming. That's all I'm going to say. Today is a big day, hopefully. After a solid year and a half, we're gonna put the greenhouse plastic on. Finally. Got everything prepped yesterday. So, I gotta continue getting ready. Got a few more things to do. And then we'll get it knocked out. done. Shouldn't say it's done. I got quite a bit more to do on it yet, but it's started. Ooh, it's nice and warm in here. Look at that baby. The wind got a little aggressive there, but we overcame, and it's in. So nice. I gotta get these planks out now and get some of the weed fodder and whatnot out of here. Pretty cool. Long time coming.